This is Algebra 3, Section 3.1. We're talking about measures of central tendency. This is Part 2 of Section 3.1. And here's where we left off. Finding a weighted average. We want to take that one step further. And this is the type of problem where we're going to have a missing score or missing value that we have to solve for. It's going to be a little bit like doing a weighted average but working backwards. You have yet to take the final exam. If each marking period is worth 20% and the midterm and the final are each worth 10%, what must you score on the final exam in order to achieve a 90 average for the year? This is like if you're at the end of the school year, right before you take the final. You want to know what you have to get. So the weighted average is 90. And we know that. This is going to be equal to the marking period 1 score worth 20% plus marking period 2 score worth 20% plus midterm worth 10% plus third marking period worth 20% plus fourth marking period worth 20% divided by the sum of the weights. 20, 20, 10, 20, 20, and then the final exam is worth 10%. But we need an x value and we don't know the last final exam. So we're going to call that x, and that's going to be worth 10%. Okay, so here's our equation. All of this is going to equal 90. In order to solve this algebraically, first, I'm going to multiply both sides by 100. $9,000 equals, and I'm going to add up, I'm going to multiply these values and then add them up. That should come out to 7,900 plus that last one, 10x, divided by 100. Well, we already took care of that, so we don't need that. Now, next step, subtract 7,900. That gives me 1,100 equals 10x. Let's divide both sides by 10. X equals 110. What does that tell us about the score we need on the final exam? Well, the highest grade you can get on a test is 100. So because the score you need is 110, that means it's impossible in this case for you to get on A. So make sure you're working hard throughout the entire class. And then you won't have to be under so much pressure in the final exam. Life lessons. Now, let's tackle a question that has a frequency distribution. You roll a die 12 times, and the frequency distribution, remember that's just a table, is given below. Find the mean of the frequency distribution, but we characterize that as pretty much the same thing as a weighted average. Now, the weighted average Well, we have to find how many times each roll occurred. So by looking at this table, you can imagine that a 1 was rolled once, and a 2 was rolled 4 times. A 3 was rolled twice. A 4 was rolled 3 times. A 5 was rolled once, and a 6 was rolled once. So that's kind of the actual data set that we could take an average from. We could add all of those things up and divide by 12. But if we want to do it with a weighted average, look how it's set up. Think of this as the weights, which means that the sum of x times w should be given by 1 times 1 plus 2 times 4 plus 3 times 2 5 times 1 and 6 times 1. Where everything in parentheses there, those are all the weights. And then divided by 12. Put that together, and we should get 38 divided by 12, and that's a 3.167. Weighted average from a frequency distribution. The mode is the most frequently occurring value. So now we've got mean, median, and mode. Find the mode of each data set. Which one occurs most frequently? 8. The data does not have to be in order. Alright, so look at B. The mode is 10 because it's the only value it occurs 5 times. If we were to look at the mean here, well, the mean would be 50 divided by 5, which is also 10. And then if we look at the median, that would also be 10. In the case where you have a uniform data set and all the data values are the same, the mean, median, and mode will be equal. But then there are cases where there's no mode. Here's an application. Verizon union workers are negotiating a new contract. In order to help them, you gather data and find that 6 workers earn $40,000 a year, 10 workers earn $44,000, and 2 workers earn $56,000 a year. Which measure of central tendency should you use to make the best argument for a salary increase? In order to do this problem, we're going to use the graphing calculator. So take a look at these instructions. And we want to be able to do that with this data set. But remember that because there are duplicates, it's really a data set that looks like this. 6 40s, 10 44s, and 2 56s. Here's our data set with 18 values. Keep that in mind. Let's bring up a graphing calculator. It's just going to take a minute. Okay, here we go. So number 1 in the instructions, I'm going to press Stat and then Edit. Enter the data into L1. 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. 6 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10. 10 44s. 2 56s. Alright, now does that match with the number of data values? I have 18 total data values, and then on the calculator I have 18, so I'm looking good. Number 2, let's press Stat, but scroll to the right to the Calc menu, and the very first one says 1 var stats. That's going to stand for 1 variable stats, and we're going to press Enter on that. We're going to make sure our data is under L1, which it is, and we'll press Calculate. Alright, now we can scroll up and down through this data set, and if you look at the calculator, notice that it gives us a ton of descriptive metrics. The first one being the mean. And because we entered every single frequency in the calculator, that means that this is actually a weighted average. So the mean is going to be $44,000. But we have choices: mean, median salary, or mode, most frequent. So scroll down on the calculator and you see you get a 5-number summary. It says min X Q1, median Q3, max. The median is $44,000 per year. And now we can look back at our data set and figure out the mode. The most frequently occurring value is the mode of 44. What does this all mean about the problem? It says that no matter what measure of central tendency that we use for Verizon workers, it will not matter which we choose. It won't always be the case, but in this particular situation, we could say that the average is $44,000, the median is $44,000, and the most frequent salary is $44,000. Okay, that is all. Please make sure to comment on this video for credit, and then have a nice day.